So I've been kind of scared to do this review because I've long mentioned this is my favorite book of all time. And the Dune movie's coming out, it looks great, and I just wanted to do an in-depth review, but I was kind of scared to. But then I remember, I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I must face my fear. Allow it to pass over and through me. So, Dune is pretty big. Like, this is a task to operate. Because it is not the longest book, but it is very dense. And I will start with my non-spoiler review here. I really, really love this book. In fact, it is my favorite book ever. I've expected it to be for the rest of my life. Because it is beautiful while being action-packed, but not as action packed as I would say a lot of things. But I think it gets the rep for just being really slow, and it is at some points. But there is certainly a lot of action in these, and I could point out lots of instances once I get to my spoiler section. But in this spoiler-free sort section, I will kind of talk about how what happened in the Dune, but not spoiler, and how I love Frank Herbert's writing style, and I think he portrays some characters. I think Frank Herbert has the writing style of an alien. I don't think he writes as a human. It's so weird. A lot of sci-fi stories are humans telling stories of other worlds. Him, I don't think he's ever heard of Earth, and he's just citing this as fact, which I love. It's so beautiful. It's just citing it as perfect fact. And it's just the weirdest writing style, but also so beautiful. His writing style kind of you get the thoughts of everyone. Everyone, you get to know what their inner thinking. If they're talking to someone, you're knowing what they really think, which is good because there's a lot of lying and deceit in this book. If you have not read this, it is like a house plot. The whole book is kind of like a plot, which I will get into in the spoiler section, but the whole book kind of is a plot to destroy House Atreides. And it does not turn out great for anybody. And the book is perfect in every way. It is science fiction to its core. One thing that is different about this book is the absence of technology. And hey, I'm doing a science fiction and not writing technology. That's a bold move, Mr. Herbert. And I really, really love how you executed it. Because the world building in this is beautiful. It's better than Star Wars world building. Feel like it had more thought than any other world building, maybe excusing the Wheel of Time and Lord of the Rings, but this is the world building is like a fantasy series, but is set in space with these noble houses plotted against each other, and portrays itself as so beautiful, while the action scenes being so addictive, like spice, and while the world building makes you think so much, and the words kind of sound made up, because again, the Lisan al-Gaib, the Muad'Dib, the what's it called, Yue. Yeah, I feel like he's making up names. What's it called? The Quizrax, Hatterack. A lot of times he just spits it out, and and then now it makes total sense to me. And it's just some of these quotes will stay with me forever. And if you are contemplating reading Dune, give it a shot. It is not for everyone. I'm not going to say you like it. I touched on this in my first 5-minute review. I think you need to know the world a lot. I think you need to know what you're getting into. I think you need to know that it's not action, not your newest sci-fi thriller. But it is beautiful in every way. And that's what you need to know going into this. And Paul I feel like he gets farther, he's written far away from you, but you still get to know him. In this read, the character Jessica, Paul's mother, stood out to me more than just Paul's mother. I got way more of a vibe from her than I did in the last read, and I'm so glad I did, because I get to know her a lot better. And that made me happy, because I think I get something new whenever I read Dune. And in this book, I really, really got to know Jessica, and I really, really got to care for her more than I did in the last read. And I feel like that's the beauty of rereads, right? So I can say, I got this from the first time I read this, and then I got this, another completely new side of Dune that I understand now. now the second time I read this. And I kind of started reading, after I read a section, I would read it in the graphic novel version of it. Like that only covers the first book. The Dune is split up into 3 books. I think it's Dune is the first book, then Wadib, and then The Prophet. All of them are great. They're like, I can't tell you which one's better because it is amazing. It is crazy. This is my reading edition. As you can see, I beat it up. Beat it up. I've destroyed it. Because the books you live to love, you get beat up because it's just possible. And then I also have Dune. I will talk about this cover for a second. I feel like it portrays Dune so well. Like, it has a spice. It's never going to be an action scene for Dune because I would feel like it'd be weird to put a fight scene on there when it's not really, that's not the best of Dune. You don't read Dune for the fights that they have, which they do have fights. I promise you there is fights, but that's not why you read Dune. And I feel like this cover and this cover portrays that really well. And I feel like the art is beautiful. The colored edges and everything about this is so beautiful. And this is what I credit making me want to read Dune, because I had watched the trailer. That's cool. I saw this at a Barnes & Noble. Okay, that's mine. I'm going to buy that. And that's why I get it to remind me of me looking at that in the Barnes & Noble. And I'm like, I should read that book. I saw the trailer. And now it showed me my favorite book of all time. So that's unmeasurable. You can't do that. But like, you just like showed me my favorite book of all time. And it probably will be my favorite book of all time because it's Dune. And if you don't know how good Dune is, give it a read. 100%. Just check it out. I know a lot of people don't like it. I know people who don't like it. I know people I agree with who don't like it. But I can understand why. I'm like, okay, I get what you're saying. I disagree with it. I like those aspects you're pointing out. And I feel like you gotta know if it's for you. And if it's a good book or not. And it is a great book. It's like beautiful in I really just love it. And a lot of people don't because it's slow. And it's like, but I don't really think that's what he was going for. I think he wanted to talk about so much in this book. And I feel like he's a genius. This is science fiction like I've never seen it before. Even though it came out so long ago. There's not enough really things that live up to Dune, which is great because I don't think anyone should copy it. Even though I've heard the Sun Eater does resemble Dune. But I want to check those out, and if anything is kind of like Dune, you definitely need to check it out. I talk about Dune enough on this channel, but I want to keep talking about it. I want to have a kind of resurgence before the movie comes out. And yeah, that was the end of my spoiler-free thoughts. I'm going to go in depth from now on. Bye, spoiler-free peeps. Read the book and then watch this video. My timestamps will be here. And definitely go check Dune by Frank Herbert out. This is crazy good. This is already longer than my original video. One of my problems with my original video, I conveyed what I thought really well. I should have never went in depth because I didn't do in-depth reviews back then. Definitely needed to change that. I want to have some reviews that are, that gets my thought across. You know how I feel about it. And then some reviews that are in depth that I go like the Wheel of Time reviews and some Stormlight reviews, so I can do it now. And so the first thing that really stood out to me was the Gom Jabbar scene. If you didn't know what the Gom Jabbar scene is, it's basically like the testing for the Bene Gesserits, but Paul is a male son of a Bene Gesserit. So it's kind of, that's like the prophecy, like he could be the Kwisatz Haderach. And so one of his first tests is the Gom Jabbar, and this is a very famous scene in science fiction. And if you didn't know, like, it's like the put your hand in the box scene from the trailer, like what's in the box pain. And I feel like Frank Herbert is like scares you and confuses you so much at that scene. He throws so many at you, like you're getting poked with the hand, like feels like your hand is like death. And then like there's no pain, there's no visual pain at all. And that's like, okay, like that's like it throws it at you. And I know because I have context. I've read the book before. But I think I remember reading that, and I'm like, I'm confused, because I think he did that on purpose, to like throw you into this world, hook you with the Gom Jabbar, with the pain scene, and then, ooh, That looked like it would hurt a lot, and I don't think I would be able to go into the Gamja bar. Honestly, I couldn't, because it looked so painful, and the Bernie Gesserit like didn't care. And then for Jessica to stand out there not knowing if he survives, because if he moves his hand out of the box, he dies with the poison. I don't know what the poison's called. I probably should have written that down. But Jessica was like outside of the door, and that's like another test, just to like pray that they make it. Like it's probably not everyone's gonna make it. And so you're standing outside the door, and there's so much anticipation, and I'm pretty sure that was just as hard for Jessica as it was for Paul. And that, as I said, I really, really connected to Jessica in this book, and I was like, that made so much sense to me. And that was on Kaladin, and Kaladin, not Kaladin from the Stormlight Archive. I get so many confusions like that, but the the transition from Kaladin to Arrakis, I feel like, is one of his switches that he wants to do. He wants to show the complete switch, because I feel like Kaladin is meant to be the exact opposite of Arrakis. Like, everything Kaladin is, Arrakis isn't. Because, like, literally there's rain coming from the sky, there's oceans everywhere, it's rain, everything's blue and green on Arrakis. Kind of like Arrakis from Dune, God Emperor of Dune. But I'm not going to spoil God Emperor of Dune. I will try not to. But I feel like Frank Herbert tries to contrast that. He tries to go, okay, water everywhere. These people are spoiled. The Atreides are kind of spoiled. And then the plot of the Harkonnens, which I will get into later, like, they kind of switch them. Because the Harkonnens were previously in charge of Arrakis. And they're, through a plot, trying to destroy the Atreides because they're not best buds. They try to get him there. They kind of destroy them. He thinks he destroys them, but he didn't, which is the favorite part of this book. That's why this book happens. He kind of rises up. He spends a lot of time with the Fremen. Yue is the traitor, and he's the doctor guy. And I didn't like him, and I think he was he was supposed to do that because he had redeeming qualities, or he was trying to have redeeming qualities as he wanted to do this. But he hated Harkonnens, which threw a lot of people off. But he was the traitor. He kind of was infiltrating on the inside. And I feel like it was good. And I feel like so many people, like Gunray thought Jessica was the traitor. But we all knew it was Yue the whole time. And I feel like he kind of just threw it out there. He was the doctor guy. I never really got connected to him. I never really cared about him. But he was the traitor and, bad guy. Not a cool kid. And Jessica, yeah, she's so, again, I said in my spoiler-free, I care about her so much more now that I the reread. Maybe you can, find something on my third reread, which should be 2023. Trying to read it every other year now. And it's just, she's a great character. One of my favorite characters. And, the Gamja bar is so iconic. I feel like that's Dune for a lot of people, and reading that made me really happy and smile a lot. Just, even though it was tough to read because, I feel so bad. But also, it made me smile because it's, pop culture moment right there. And I feel like when he moves, the dueling scene with Gunray, and it's really, really, really fun. The Duncan, Idaho. I love Duncan, Idaho so much. And I don't feel like he had enough scenes in this book. Maybe he had a couple pages. I saw Duncan, but mainly he was just talked about. And again, I like his scenes in God Emperor of Dune a lot. Because, I just love Duncan here. Duncan is, the best. And I feel like, oh, he's gone. I feel like he tries, he's more talked about than he is actually appeared in this book. Which I guess is a cool decision, a cool writing decision. Because, I get to really like him, but I barely even know him. Even Duncan is, the best. And I just, let's fight like demons, honestly. And I just love, how whenever these people are scared, whenever the Burning Gesserit are scared, they repeat the most iconic line to me. And I've started repeating it by myself. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fears. I will allow it to pass over. I'm not going to recite the whole thing. I'm sorry. But it's just so beautiful. And then, I think with the assassination attempt on Mr. Paul Atreides, I feel like that's, the main thing is, there's something going on here. Because he gets the little thing, he poisons, he defeats it. And he, runs to tell Jessica. And that's just, weird, because, a random assassination attempt. and I feel like that makes him like how important he is. It like foreshadows a lot, and just this random assassination attempt makes me feel, oh, there's something to come. There's conflict, and I feel like that was juicy drop the conflict right there. I'm like, okay, this is gonna keep me reading, obviously, and like, what's his name? The dinner party scene, like the dinner when they were hosting dinner when they got to Arrakis. I feel like that was one of the weaker parts of this book, or the weaker parts in context, like it was not in gripping. It's not as gripping as the parts of Dune, but I still really loved it for its information. A lot of weird things were said, and just like I liked it. But Paul, at that moment in time in the dinner party, he reminds me of Renarin Colan, especially in Way of King's Prime when you get some more scenes. Like, he's odd. He's an oddball, but like he's also super smart, super. He knows things, and that's why he's a little bit weird. And I feel like that's perfect as a character. I love Renarin, and I'm glad it's like Renarin, a whole book of Renarin. And I think it's so beautiful. Like, Paul, that's why I love Paul. He's so bright, and like it's just like he's so mature and so bright for a 15-year-old. Or he starts the book at 15. I think he's like 17 or 18 by the time this is done. And the Chris knife is also like kind of the milky white knife, or like it's a weird knife that people on Arrakis have. I just think that's the coolest thing. It's like one real bit of world building that just like is so interesting. Just like what was in Frank Herbert's mind when he put that on the page, and I feel like that's just makes me so interested in that. Obviously, because the Chris knife is like weird, but also so wondrous. I'm like, what is this? And also, let's lose some more, because it's just so amazing. Like, whew, and then it all goes down. I'm gonna talk about it all going down, like the night it happens. So basically, the Harkonnens, which are the bad guys, have kind of set up a plot to lure them into Arrakis, destroy them, while the Harkonnens come back to Arrakis whenever they're destroyed. Because again, they're not best of friends. So it all goes down. A lot of people get kidnapped. A lot of the House Atreides noble staff has gone or like slaved. And I feel like that, wow, like it just happens. And that's when it goes down. And I feel like when Paul and Jessica are captured, Paul is so mature. Jessica is so capable. And I feel like they all both know exactly what to do, leading them out on the ground. And Duke Leto is not that lucky. He got kidnapped, and I think Halleck gave him the tooth so he can bite, and it like kind of puts poison on everyone put in the room. It almost kills the Baron Harkonnen, who is so fat he needs something to support him, and that's hilarious. Like, and I feel like, yeah, he's like such a evil villain, a maniacal villain. But this is another connection to Star Wars I made. The bad villain, but when you compare him to the Emperor, he's only the servant. Just like Darth Vader and the Emperor Palpatine. He's only a servant. He's only a stepping stool for the Emperor. But he was very bad. Like, literally, again, like, it's also cutscenes. It's like one chapter over here, and then it's like, oh, the Baron Harkonnen. He's so evil. And I feel like I love that. That just made me so, like, that was funny because, like, he was like, you cut away and he had evil plotting, and it was just basically a clever way of telling you his evil plot. And I just really, really love that. I just thought it was hilarious because it's very, very beautiful and funny because, like, he's, like, doing the evil plot and he needs something to hold him up. But again, going back to topic, he does kill himself and almost kills everybody there. And that was crazy because he didn't get killed. He had to take his own life, which was hard because Duke Leto, like, he kind of was a cool guy. And I like Duke Leto a lot. He was very honest and integrity, and you can tell his staff really liked him. And a lot of people like Paul because of their respect for his father. And I think that comes into play when Paul names his child after him. And it's just like, that's all through the noble houses. It's very cool. I love Duke Leto. But then when he dies, I'm like, blows me up. Like, I feel so bad for everyone who was like, it makes me feel bad. Like, even though it's a book, I don't understand that. My mind has not, like, conceived that yet. And then, like, with the Mentat, Paul was told he was becoming a mentat. He was like, the training, like, people, mentat were supposed to know they were going to do mentat training, so he was, but he wasn't knowing it. Like, that was cool. Like, I was like, oh, there's a new route for Paul. I was like, what is Paul's future? Can he be mentat? Can he be the Quizrax Haderach? Or the Lisan Al-Gaib? And, you know, it's like, could be, it's a could be. I love the could be aspect of it. It's very, very awesome. Like, okay, this could be the chosen one. This could be our savior. But is he? And, like, that's his whole book is trying to prove that. And I love, love, love that. This thing was a twist. This thing actually shocked me, like, when I read it. That Jessica was the daughter of the Baron Harkonnen. That twisted up. It, like, twisted. And it turns the whole story on its head because, again, they're not friends with Harkonnen. But they're half Harkonnen, and they're also half Atreides. And they don't like the Harkonnens, and nobody likes the Harkonnens, especially the Fremen. And I'm like, I feel, like, weird saying, like, that they're Harkonnen. They hate the Harkonnen with all their guts. I feel like a Thanos and Gamora thing going on. And I just, like, that's weirded me out. But I did like that. It was like, oh, it threw something, like, because he makes you think he's not going to be the most straightforward plot for this. And I just, like, really loved that. Part of it is just, like, so, like, perfect. Like, it's so written perfectly. That was, like, it was, like, a weird choice, but in the perfect choice at the same time. So when Paul and his mother kind of get dropped off, they're in the sand. And they're kind of, like, in this tent, like, the tent thing. And at one point, they're just hiking in the desert. It's funny, the importance of water on Arrakis. Like, I feel like he writes something where, like, oh, then their needs are so complex with the spice melange. And just, like, they're so, like, complex and deep. But here, like, the main thing is the future needs water, especially on Arrakis. Like, it's the most important thing. It's so important to the Fremen lifestyle. It's like, you need a still suit to recycle your body's moisture. If you cry when someone's died, it's called giving tears to the dead, or giving moisture to the dead, because you're giving up your water. And that's, like, it's so crazy how needed it is. It's like the most important thing on Arrakis. And that's crazy. Like, the one thing that they need is something that I can just get in 2 seconds. And that's really, really cool. I always had to need a glass of water when I'm reading Dune, so I'm not too thirsty, because it makes me really, really thirsty, because he describes his need for water, and people are skinny, or, like, they're called water fat when they have water. Well, they look like they've been nourished well with water, and they're called water fat. And you can tell what people look like. And, like, you can tell Fremen because of their eyes, because they're overdosed on the spice melange. Because the Arrakis is the place for spice. It's the only place you can get spice. And the makers, like, because of the makers, the sandworms. So cool. And that's, like, insane. Because it's, like, the weirdest thing. Like, you can only get spice from Arrakis. And that's made it so popular, but also it's dry. So it makes him the leading trade center with the Chom. But also, you can't get water here. And I feel like the nobles don't really know that. Like, when the Harkonnens were in control, they didn't care about the Fremen. The water was theirs. They got it. But now you can see, especially when they were with the Fremen, that's a lot. That is a lot of water that they need, and not any to come by, which is insane. Just how that works. And whenever they lost their pack in the sand and they had to dig really deep, that was just really cool aspect to it. And when they eventually stumble upon these Fremen is like my homies. Like, Paul drops some knowledge. What's his name? Jessica tells that she has Aaliyah. She's pregnant with Aaliyah with the Duke, but the Duke's already dead, so that makes a cool thing. But Stilgar is my favorite character. Almost, like, by all time, Stilgar is amazing. It's just, I don't know why, but Stilgar the Fremen. Like, you can see his blue eyes, and you can see how beautiful this is. And Chani, like, because Paul has dreams about Chani. Like, she has, like, four seeings. Again, he's weird, so he gets 4 seeings. And that's just, like, kind of cool. But, like, whenever, like, the Fremen on the back of the worm. Fremen riding worms. That's insane. Like, because, like, the normal people, like, they say, okay, those are way too dangerous. You gotta get far away from the worms. And the Fremen ride them. Because, like, they're cool like that. And, like, you can ride a worm like you can ride a horse. No matter how massive they are. And that's insane. Like, you can ride a worm like you can ride a horse. And it's funny how scared the nobles think of, like, they're so scared of the makers. But people, like, they make the sandworms, like, that's so cool. Like, cause they make it look like it's easy. Even though it's harder for Paul when he rides a sandworm at the end, or towards the end of this book. And the fight between, I think his name was Jameis. That was the first kind of duel of this book. And there's a couple duels in this book. I think there's 3 or 4. Like, just like duels. And the first one was Paul versus Jameis. Jameis is this guy who's like a Fremen, but he kind of wants to challenge Paul. I think Paul bested him pretty easily. He's a good fighter. He was trained by Gunry Halleck. But like, there was some difference in the fighting style. You can tell that they're very different. But like, Jameis, like, that's when Paul, like, he says he's the son of a Bene Gesserit, which he couldn't beat the Lisan Al Gaib, who saves everyone, or the Kwisatz Haderach. And he is, like, I know he is, but, like, it's so interesting, like, how he fights him. He ends up winning. That's the cool part. He ends up winning. Like, he wins against this, like, master starfighter, and then he gets, like, what's the lady's name who was the wife of him? But, what's it? I don't know. I can't remember the name, but, like, gets the lady, and, but he really likes Chani, because he's got the dreams, and they had a son, which is weird, because, like, we barely got to know this son. Like, I, like, barely had heard of him when I heard he died at the very end. I'm like, I don't know this person. Like, you barely even let me meet this guy. But I feel like that was a weird choice, but I get it. Like, I get the weird decisions you make. I can respect your weird decisions. Like, I can stand with it. And, it's just, like, it's cool. How, like his son, like, you never meet the son. That's a weird choice in a book. I would never choose, okay, we're gonna have a character who we're gonna mention all the time, who's gonna be with the other characters. We're just not gonna show him. That's cool. And, but Chani, I didn't connect with Chani as much. I liked Chani, but, like, she wasn't, like, the star of the show. And I think that's, like, next I'm like, Chani stands out by far to me. And I'm like, that could be very, very possible. Like, it's like, Chani could be a great character. And I just, like, haven't understood it on this read. But I feel like it was very far away. And it's just, yeah, I like Chani. It's just she wasn't the best character. This fight was Fade Ralpha and this slave. Because I feel like these two fights, Paul versus Jameis, and Fade Ralpha and this slave, kind of prepare for their fight at the end. Like, they each fight someone, they each win, and now they're fighting for the very climax of the story. I feel like Fade Ralpha gets, like, a slave who's supposed to be, like, trash, but, like, he's good. He's, like, supposed to be trash and jug. Fade Ralpha, who is the nephew of the Baron Harkonnen, bests him. Like, you can tell he's good, even though, like, he was a good slave fighter, because, like, they had taken slaves. And while this is happening, they all kind of take the slaves, like, and they're just, like, being mean to the slaves. And for the 2 years this is going on, like, this, like, Paul is with the Fremen for 2 years. And, like, he fights someone, and he wins. And that's scary, because I thought, like, oh, they're gonna win. That Fade Ralpha was trash. But he was not. He was really good. Yeah, so, like, it's cool to see the inner workings of the Fremen. Like, how they work is so interesting. Because, like, Kynes is, like, Leah, Chani's father, and it's, like, so, like, weird to see his passing. It's so sad. I'm, like, sad to see him leave. And that's not good. Because, like, I like him. And, like, it feels so awful. Kynes was, like, really, like, I like Kynes a lot. And, like, and I feel like I meant a lot for Jessica, what's her name, Chani, and I feel like it means a lot to her, but I really, it's like, I feel so bad, and, like, I can feel bad. I never feel bad a lot of times in books, but I do for Dune. Like, if someone dies, I actually feel awful, in the book world, because usually this is, like, the world, because what's cool about Dune is how much time it actually spans. It spans about 4 years. in one book, and I feel like it's way more in the whole series. Like the whole 6 books are like millions of years, but it's 40 years in a book. I feel like it's long for the book. How it like takes you the whole wheel of time takes place in like 3 years. Like this is all 3 years. Weird to me, but like I feel like that's how the beauty of it. It's so wide scope. Like in a nature, it's very, very, very beautiful how wide scope he is, and I feel like it's just like, like when Aaliyah, like the boss baby Aaliyah, I'm just like that's all I can think about her. Like she kind of grows up from like 0 to 2, and I don't think like there's barely like a 2 years later. It's just kind of happens like a very smooth transition, like from like just being born to 2, and I'm like, okay, like that happened. Just accept it right now, and it's just like I love it. It's beautiful. It's like so perfect like that. I'm like, okay, it's like happens. And to be accepted, Paul has to like write a sandworm because like he's like super cool. He's Muad'Dib, Paul Muad'Dib in this world. Like it doesn't mean like little mouse is Muad'Dib, but like he to be accepted, he has to ride a sandworm. That was interesting. Like I was like riding a sandworm. I don't know how that would work. I don't know how it works. I don't know how you jump that far up into a massive sandworm, but they do, and they go pretty far. And like I feel like that's like a source of like manhood for Paul. Like he has ridden a sandworm, and I would never expect him doing that. It's like why and how, and that's awesome. That's all I can think about whenever it's just like, and see how like that's something only Frank Herbert could think of, and I really, really appreciate that. Just how original it is. And like after this, he's an expert basically. He's like a Fremen basically. Now he's got the blue eyes. He's super cool. I love like Paul how it changes, and then he meets Gurney again, who was his teacher, who we had the start from the start. I think it's a wonderful comparison, meeting kind of his old self and Gurney, and seeing how much he's changed, but how much he's used that information. Which is, I loved that scene. I'm like comparing Paul then to Paul now, and I feel like, wow, he's changed. He's a big boy now, and I feel like, yeah, like Paul, like Gurney's surprised and thrilled, and he's so happy to see Paul. You know, like because people had thought him dead. Like I think they were like described as dead, basically back then. But holy cow, now he's back and better than ever. Ooh, that made me so happy. I'm like, oh, yeah, get him. Beat up the Horkonans. And I'm like, perfect. Like, it's like, that's how you write a novel. And, ooh, that was beautiful how that worked out. That made me the happiest. Even though my favorite scene was the one where Jessica and Paul ran away from the sandworm just because of how awesome that is. But that is one of my favorite parts when the meeting happens. Because it's been such a long time. And then the part where like I love how just like things happen and you're deal with the consequences, and like a lot of times like they won't describe it. Like when Paul drinks a sacred water like this, the drop, and they put him in a coma for 3 weeks. They don't tell you the 3 weeks went by. You just kind of learn that 3 weeks went by and he's in a coma. Like the last time I heard of him, he was fine. Now he's in a coma. He's apparently drank this sacred water, and then he drinks more the moment he wakes up, and then Jessica's kind of realized my son is the Quizrax Heterik, and I'm like that's a weird choice, and I love the weird choices he makes. The weird choices he makes make this book so great. I don't think if he made these rest of these books would not be as good. If this book was more what people wanted at the time, it wouldn't be as good, and I feel like that's what makes it so perfect. And like just like how he's not gonna make the book everyone wants him to write. He's gonna write what he wants to write, and he's going to have massive success for Dune. And I wish Frank Herbert was alive to see his success, like, on the screen, which is going to come out in October. Ooh, when it all goes down, you kind of hear that Paul's son is dead. You don't see Paul's son dying, because remember, we don't talk to Paul's son. but you hear it, and he's devastated. Chani's devastated. I don't know this kid, so I'm not devastated, but you can tell that they're devastated, so I'm devastated for them. Like I'm not, like, really cared about them, but... And then Aaliyah's held captive. And whenever they talk to the Emperor, she's so calm, cool, and collective at 2 years old talking to the Emperor and the Baron, and then I would be freaking out, you know? That's just how it would happen, but, it's weird. Like, it's how calm, cool, and collective. It's, like, and she's talking. She actually ends up killing the Baron Harkonnen with the ganja bar, and that's how it all went down. And the Fremen come. Paul gets his victory, and he's now Duke of Arrakis. And that was just like that's his whole comeback story. He's like, okay, let me come. And because he rightfully got transferred to Arrakis, they try to get rid of him. He's not get rid of. He's coming back, and that's the cool part. Like, it's like he gets pushed down, he comes back better than ever as a Fremen with all his Fremen friends, and that was like, yeah, get him, you know. And I feel like that was like, yeah, get him. I just felt so like attack them, and I've never felt more kind of connected to these characters. I talk about Dune too much. This has been like 45 minutes. Holy cow. I just realized that. But I feel like I'm gonna, like, at the end of this, like, the main, like, that was the climax. But the falling action was him fighting I wouldn't say this. I think the climax is kind of that, getting back that in the dual climax. And there's also gonna duel, I think, what's his name? Fade Ralph, the niece, but they're all dead, so he's the only Harkonnen. And that duel was interesting. Like, there was a point where he was on top of Paul, and I was like, oh, I read this before, but why am I worried, you know? But, like, I was like, wow, that happened. And, like, I feel like the dual climax is very interesting that happened, because you would think taking care of the Harkonnens and the Emperor, the naughty Emperor, was, would be the main climax, but it's not. It's just interesting choices make this book good. Again, proving my point. That's my main thesis for this review. And that's just, and then the ending it puts out real weird. He kind of like has to marry Irulan, which is the daughter of the Emperor, just to make him more powerful, but it's not really a thing. He kind of likes Chani, and like, but like I think that's more for political gain, because I kind of like think it's like the best of both worlds, because this whole book, Jessica was mad that like Chani is not like some emperor, like he's not gonna have a powerful marriage. It's just this really random sand lady. But I feel like that kind of like, but he does have to end up marrying Irulan, who wrote the like word info dumping at the very start. Like at the very start of every chapter, there was like info dumping, which I feel like is cool because it's from the future. The textbook passage is from the future, and if you're gonna info dump, that's like the strangest and perfectest way to do it. The perfectest. Okay, that works. But like these info dumps are all by Irulan, and now that I can see, okay, oh, she's married to Paul, and like I get that. I don't like the fact that he does that, but I think he does it for me to not like it. For me to like and I think Paul has such a coming up story, so perfect. He's Muad'Dib. Everyone loves him, but I feel like that's why I love Dune Messiah. Like he comes up, and whatever comes up must come down, and that's so perfect about Dune Messiah. And I really want to read Dune Messiah now, but I can't. But I think I want to complete Paul's story, even though I'm going to be continuing with the Heretics of Dune coming up here pretty soon. I always put it on my TBR, but I am going to finish the first 6, and then I will reread the Dune again in the next 2 years, and then in 2 years from now, I might even read the Dune Chronicles again, even though I need to finish up my Dune Chronicles. This has been a long time. I started with my hair wet. As you can see, it is dry now, so it's been a while, and it's just, I don't know why, but talking about Dune too much. I wanted to get to more. I planned for this to be an hour long, but things don't happen the way it happens. I think I'm tired now, and I feel like I've gotten all I need to talk to, but more Dune content will be coming in the future. And maybe like a Dune a completely spoiler-free review will come out nearer to the movie. But this is my in-depth spoiler talk. It was so, so beautiful. Favorite book of all time is Dune by Frank Herbert. It's amazing, amazing. The spoiler talk makes me tired. Holy cow, this is really late, and I just not in for it. But I wanted to do a spoiler-free and spoiler review for Dune by Frank Herbert. This is no question the best book of all time. And this reread reaffirms it. I almost felt like I liked it more, which was the weirdest thing because of all my praise for Dune the first time I read it. And I don't know, tell me how many times you've heard me say, oh yeah, Dune is my favorite book of all time, because I say that way too much. And tell me if I'm saying it too much. Tell me to shut up about Dune, because I can't. And I think I need reminders, because it's so perfect. Again, my main idea was Dune is great because of the odd decisions it makes that pay off so well. And that's why it makes it good. And I loved Dune in the first time I read it, and I feel like I identified why I loved it so much in this time I read it. I'm so happy I reread it. It's one of the best choices I've ever made. It's weird to say, but I'm going to keep rereading it currently. And I'm going to review them every time just to see how different I change my, But Dune will always be my favorite book. That's the thing I'm calling for. I was calling it out, but this is a great book. This is a great book. This is a great book. This is weirdly amazing. And this I'm going to get to. I love all of the Dune so far, and I'm going to be continuing with all of the Brian Herbert books, but just very, very slowly. I'll be continuing very slowly if you want an update on my Dune franchise. But Dune, beautiful. Beautiful. I don't know. I love this book so much, and you know why. I've talked about it, and I just wanted a long review out there, more professional review. And I didn't really need to review it because I had already read it, and I've already reviewed it. But that review was kind of trash, and don't lie to me, it was trash. And I liked it. I portrayed my like for it a lot in that book, in that review. But I don't think that it was I didn't schedule it well, and I didn't talk about it well. I didn't articulate my feelings as well as I did, and I feel like I'm better at articulating my feelings. It's kind of what happens when you're a booktuber, but I feel like now I got it here, and you know how I feel about it. That was long enough. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. Dune. I'm going to be thinking about Dune forever. I got a Dune shirt coming in. I got to order a House of Atreides hoodie for the premiere of Dune, and you can expect so much more Dune and Wheel of Time content. That's the future of my channel, because those are my two favorite things on the planet right now, and that's also weird to say. The favorite two things on my planet are the favorite two book series of all time. This is the best book ever, and if I have not, it's beautiful. If I've not portrayed that, I apologize, because this is awesome, and I encourage you to read it. Out of all these, it's not, this is not the best like ratio. It's not 100% like ratio like some books. Some books like Way of Kingdoms, I've never heard a terrible review for it, but this I've heard, and I've watched some rant reviews for Dune, and I'm like, whew. I feel like part of me that's critical, this person doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know. He isn't he's not smart enough. But there's also part of me that gets it. I get it. I get what you're coming from, and I try to relate to those people. And I try to comment on their videos. I get it, but I disagree with you. And I just try to do that as much as possible. I try to watch as much Dune reviews as possible to get my mind open. And I've watched the 1984 movie that was kind of butt. And I'm about to watch Dune in the movie theater, and that's what inspired me to do the reread. I read Dune for the first time 1 year ago. Oh, the movie's coming out next month. Let me read it. Guess what? Didn't delay a year, and I'm reading. Here I am reading it again for the real release date of Dune. So it makes me so happy, but also so sad. Again, I read this for Sci-Fi September, and I was going to do it towards the end of the month, the penultimate, but I ended up doing it now, and I have no regrets, honestly. I really just love the spice eyes. I have an editing tool. Is there an editing I can get the spice eyes, like when I blink, it's actual legitimate spice eyes? I need spice eyes. I need contacts that make my eyes spice. Why am I saying that? I don't know. I'm very confused. I talk about Dune a lot. Too much, but also not enough at the very same time. Tell me if you want more Dune videos. Tell me if you have ideas. I'm working on some Dune lore videos, like the transformation of Dune from Dune 1 to God Emperor. I'm working on that right now. And I'm working on a lot of videos of Dune. And this is my review, just a long review talking about the book. Favorite book ever. But I'm tired. Goodbye. So this is my long review. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. Please leave a like and subscribe. If you are watching this, please give me, I don't know what emoji, give me an emoji of a turtle. So tell me you've watched the whole thing, and if you have, I will pin your comment and talk to you about it in the next video, but I doubt anyone will. But if you do, kudos, because this is a long video, and I'm gonna make my long videos have a comment like a emoji, so you got a little think when you get the end of it, because I feel like if you watch this, you're a big Dune fan and you're a big Ben's Bouquet fan, and I respect you. Alright, so I've talked about this quite enough, so see ya in the next video.